pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I figured something out this morning. I forgot to tell you about it. I was out running, and I run my route backwards, so I come fiscal the other way at the ratio. And as you run up to it, 2 traffic lights, as DOT requires, 1 centered over each lane.
Yeah, no, I saw that. We have that at ratio, we have that
It
at
may have
backwards.
2, yeah. 1 centered over each lane.
Because you have to have 2 on, there's a turning movement,
Yeah.
you have to have, I don't know what you can do.
And when we talked to Cliff said you can't do anything, that's DOT rule.
So,
Shepherd. But, hey,
well, my only thought is if it continues, I guess I should email a guy and say, let us know. It's put an arrow, but comes around, it's just like, in,
yeah.
out, but I know that's not approved, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it is.
It is.
Because when you're running up to it, you're driving up to it, it's sent
I know
exactly
that.
over each line. So it looks like they're both over. And that switch lane comes in, like, oh. Do the painted too.
So maybe I should talk to Alyssa, like, is there any exception that is oncoming, you know, even more? Yeah. Not to say that it's happening in May, all right? Yeah. And if the ratio doesn't necessarily happen, but there's 2 lights, 2 turn lights, there's 4 signals, and there's 3 lanes. So sometimes I think the middle people think they're in that lane, because they miss the,
Yep. But, I mean, come on, how dumb do you have to be?
well, that's why, like, I can understand it being a one-off, like a
Would you
one-off.
like it, like,
But like, a random somebody visiting maybe,
Hey, what's going on, Dale?
Hey, Brother Vance, what's up with you guys?
I got some new earphones, man. The wireless. Can you hear me all right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good,
Very
good. It's my first time trying them out.
Yeah, if I haven't gotten quite so technologically advanced, I just have to turn everything up loud.
Hey, man.
Miss Jess is okay. Arlo's making out like a tall dog.
Arlo's over here, man. He'll probably, I had to put it on mute. He's going to bark a few times, I'm sure, tonight. You know? So,
I might too, so don't worry about that.
Oh, Lordy. So, you should see it over here, Dale. It's a different world, man. It's like, you know, I really think we're doing the right things for Maitland. And over here, the city over here is holding concerts.
Really?
Yeah. Daytona Beach Shores, the city,
Yeah.
not just somebody individual. The city's holding the concerts. So,
Well, that sounds like a bit of a challenge. Of course, we may have an independent square in the foreseeable future where we could do such things.
yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
You could have an independent square dance.
Yes, exactly.
But boom, nice.
We got Cliff's prom picture there.
Oh, buddy, you don't even know. This really drives him crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Man.
Just having a big old time. Well, is it raining outside yet?
Over here it is pouring.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, now it's just cloudy.
Yeah.
You not got any rain?
Oh, we did, but now it's just cloudy.
Oh, okay.
Sharon's happy to have air conditioning right now.
Yes, we are happy.
Yeah, they had a downtime this morning, so apparently we had had some air conditioning malfunction with some fire alarm sensors or whatever it was. That
Yes.
Really?
so maybe we should have paid more for a city hall.
I think that it's a safety measure that when it detects a fire, it shuts down those air conditioning units so as not to billow the smoke throughout the building.
That makes sense. That
Yeah,
makes,
and so it was a faulty fire alarm sensor, but it was doing the right thing.
yeah.
Hey, Lindsay. I think you're on mute.
I saw you and Andrew out walking this morning about 8 o'clock.
Oh, did you? We're probably heading home, huh?
I was honking at you, but you just thought, I'm sure, that it was some nutcase on Horatio. I qualified. So
I must have missed it. We both had our headphones in, so it's entirely possible. We were walking, we ran into each other. We were on separate runs and we ran into each other. So decided we walk home together, but.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Get your.
So Lindsay, I think my wife and I are going to go watch the game at Tinker Field. Did you get that email?
I don't know what the club is doing, but I never get any of the emails. They all go to Andrew, who filters them. So I don't know about any. You are my first point of contact with the club, Vance. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, but no, they're doing
A
like
watch party?
big screen out at Tinker Field, and you can drive
cool.
it, do a drive up and watch it. Yeah.
So they did that a few weeks ago for Society 21 members. They offered for the first game, it was a drive-in party. And then apparently a bunch of nut jobs started setting off fireworks out of the back of their pickup trucks.
Oh, really?
So we had thought about going, and then we were like, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't.
I've got a quick Tinker Field story for you.
All right, go for it.
My second wife, I actually proposed to her at the largest, we had a board of realtors night at Tinker Field, and they had over 5,000 people at Tinker Field for a minor league baseball game. And so I had, as you can well imagine, I had it all rigged up so that during the 7th inning stretch, we're able to sneak out onto the mound, called her down from the crowd, and in front of 5,000 people proposed to my second. Yes.
Wow.
A cute story.
Bold move.
Apparently made it on all 3 TV stations that night. So
that's cool. Hey, that
was all for a marriage that lasted 9 months. You're supposed to.
Well, that was going to be my question, Dale. What lasted longer, the baseball season or your marriage?
Yeah, good point. If I probably hadn't made such a big impression, it might have only lasted 8 months. Who knows?
Okay, so it is 6:31 and we are missing Michael Wild. We got Mike Thomas. Oh, there he is.
All right, Thomas Wild. Okay. Everybody here okay? Mike, Mike Thomas, can you hear okay? Yep. All right, Michael?
I can hear you.
All right. All right. Robert, you want us to go ahead and get started?
Sure thing.
All right, thanks. Let's get rolling, guys. All right, good evening and welcome to the City of Maitland City Council meeting for July 27th, 2020. This meeting is now called to order. Now, please note that this meeting is being held through video and audio conferencing technology. The city clerk, Miss City Clerk, will you please take a roll call of attendance to be sure all are present to ensure all council members can hear and be heard?
Sure, thank you. Councilman Guthrie?
Here.
Councilman Paul Harrison?
Here.
Councilman Thomas?
Here.
Councilman Wild?
Here.
Mayor McDonald?
Here. Okay, now we've got that. In addition to the city council, we have city manager Sharon Anselmo, city attorney Cliff Shepard, and assistant city manager Mark Regentine are also here with us this evening. Now, Ms. City Manager, you want to lead us on into the rest of this?
Sure, just a brief disclosure. Those that are watching or listening to the council meeting, the governor has extended Executive Order 20-69, waiving the requirement for an in-person quorum. A council member must not need be physically present as long as sunshine law requirements can be met. We posted tonight's agenda on Wednesday at 5 p.m., July 22nd, and a link from the city's website provided access to that. Public comment was taken by email and voicemail from Wednesday, July 22nd until today at 3 o'clock. And as we go through each item under the public period, the city clerk will state what the public comment was that we have received, by whom, and they will be made part of the record of the meeting, although they will not be read verbatim in the interest of time. The meeting is being recorded. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Sharon. Please, everyone, please bow their heads for a moment of silence with me. All right, thank you very much. Robert, do you have a splendid rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance for us?
I do.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Robert. I like that version.
Sure.
And for the record, before we go any further, I would like to note how dapper Assistant City Manager Mark Regentine looks this evening. He is extraordinarily well dressed, and we are glad that he is, setting the standard high for all of us. Okay, Ms. City Clerk, you want to read the title?
Sure,
for
thank you.
our, first public hearing.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maitland, Florida, adding section 7.52 to the Code of Ordinances, establishing updated public works and engineering minimum design standards for new development, providing for legislative finding, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for conflict, and providing for an effective date.
All right, very good. Sharon, you want to fill in the blanks on this one?
Absolutely. So Assistant City Manager Mark Regentine went over this at the last meeting at the first reading. This is your second reading and the adoption for the codification of our engineering minimum design standards.
All right, very good. All right, anybody want to jump right in? I think this one's pretty straightforward for us.
I'll jump in and make a motion.
That's a pretty big jump. Anybody else have any comments before Mike makes a motion? Hearing none, Mike, you're on, man.
Can I just move the motion?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, you can.
Okay, I move the motion.
I'll second that well-worded motion.
I appreciate the brevity of the motion and the second. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, Ms. Maria, if you would please call the roll.
I just need to let everybody know we did not receive any comments on this item.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Hall Harrison,
Aye.
Councilman Thomas,
Aye.
Councilman Wild,
Aye.
Councilman Guthrie,
Aye.
Mayor McDonald.
Aye. Okay, moving right along here. We've got Ms. Sharon, any old business we want to talk about?
Just want to make sure everybody got the email that I forwarded out to you last week after our workshop. We have some other questions that came up, but there was one question regarding the senior center statistics, res versus non-res. And I did send that out to you, what that current breakdown is. And we'll get the other information to you as we gather it. There were some concerns about some of the other items that were on there. So just want to make sure everybody got it.
All righty, thank you. Was there, moving on to the consent agenda, do we have any public comment related to items 2 through 5 on the consent agenda, Ms. Maria?
No, sir, no comments were received.
All right, if that's the case, anybody have any questions, comments? If not, another brief motion will be in order.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from July 13th, 2020.
Are we on that?
How about a,
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that what it was? Oh, we're on the consent
I'm on the
agenda.
consent,
My
we're
bad.
on the consent agenda.
you can,
Yeah.
you can do the whole consent agenda.
Yeah,
there,
I'm
Vance.
sorry. Yes, that's what I meant
That's
to do.
all right.
Apologies.
That's all right.
So that's my motion. Another great motion just made.
I'll
All right.
second Vance's motion of approving the consent agenda.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment? Hearing none, Miss Maria?
Thank you. Councilman Thomas,
Aye.
Councilman Wild,
Aye.
Councilman Guthrie,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hall Harrison,
Aye.
Mayor McDonald.
Aye. Okay, this is our now legendary Maitland General Public period. Miss Maria, do we have anybody that's wanted to address us with any nuggets of wisdom?
Yes, we did receive one email from Art and History about their upcoming events and so on, and it was forwarded to each of you this afternoon.
Did everybody have an opportunity to see that? I'll take that as a yes. All right. Anything else, Miss Maria?
No, that's it for that item, sir. Thank you.
That was it. Okay. So we will, given that, we'll go ahead and close the public period and bring the meeting back to council. We're looking at, let's see, where are we now? We're looking at appointments, our first decision item, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, Miss Maria, if you'll introduce the item.
Yes, the term of Taylor Kiesel, who's the vice chair on the BZA, expired on July the 3rd. He is not eligible to be reappointed due to the concerted term limits. The alternate member, Robert Allen's term expired on July 25th. Mr. Allen is eligible but does not wish to be considered for reappointment at this time. The following applicants reflect this board as their first choice: Isaac Tilton, second choice, Charles Nix, third choice, Manuel Nunes, third choice, Larry Schnapper, and Irene Stouffer. Don Prodone, who also applied for the Charter Commission, has requested that he be considered as his first choice to the BZA also. Council's request is to make one appointment effective July the 4th for the full member and one appointment effective July 25th for the alternate, each for a 3-year term.
Okay, everybody clear? All right. If I could, I'd like to nominate Isaac Tilton for the full-time term.
I'll second
I'll
that.
second that. Third.
Third.
All right, good. And now that that's done, I'd like to nominate Dan Prudhomme for the alternate spot.
So in that,
What's that? I'm sorry, Mike.
how does that impact the Charter Review Commission?
It does not. The BZA is a quasi judicial board. The Charter Review Commission is not.
I'll second your Don Prudhomme.
Third.
All right, we have a first, second, third. Dan Prudhomme, you've got work to do. All right, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Let's move on to our nominations for Charter Review Committee. Ms. City Manager, you want to introduce the item?
I'll be glad to do it.
Okay, Maria.
Okay. On January the 8th, the City Council adopted Ordinance 1278, creating an independent ad hoc charter review commission. The commission shall be composed of 5 members, including a chair. The members will be appointed by the council, and only qualified voters of the city shall be eligible to sit as a member of this commission. The following applicants reflect this commission as their first choice: William Duff, Wendy Evans, Sarah Grafton, John Lowndes, Kathleen MacGyver, Maureen O'Grady, Daniel Perdue, William Randolph, Karen Simisak. Council is requested to make 5 appointments effective immediately. This commission shall sunset by December 31st or acceptance of the final majority report by the City Council, whichever occurs first.
All right, very good. This is an important function that these folks are going to be providing for us, and certainly most interested in having folks that have an understanding of how important the charter actually is for us. Anybody else have any comments before I make a nomination?
Saying that, I put up John Lowndes.
I'll second that.
I'll third that. So much for making a nomination. I was going to nominate Bill Randolph.
I'll
Second that.
Wow, it's
Third.
All right.
I'd like to put forward Sarah Grafton, please.
I'll second that one.
I'll third it.
How about Kathleen MacGyver?
Well, I was, okay.
Yeah, I'll definitely second that one. I worked with her on 2 other
I'll third
planning and
that.
zoning lakes. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a sharp lady.
I'd like to nominate Karen Simisak.
I'll second that.
I'll third
Yeah.
that.
Wow. Okay. That
was fast.
yeah. I'll be quiet. Okay. Decision item number 3, Ms. City Manager, you want to lead us in?
Absolutely. So this is the annual millage rate that you will set for the trim notices that are going out. The budget that we presented to you last Monday included the millage rate being unchanged. It's at 4.3453. The rollback rate is 4.2333. And we have a debt millage, and the debt millage recommended set each year just to cover the debt service. So there's nothing else in there except the debt payment for those bonds at 0.2530. I gave you some additional information in here. We're 2.65% above the rollback rate. A mill is the tax rate for each $1,000 worth of property. So at 4.3453, a home with a taxable value of $300,000 will pay $1,304 in operating millage. To give you an idea, each mill generates $2.8 million to the general fund and $322,000 to the CRA. For a home with a $300,000 taxable value, each additional mill will cost the taxpayer $300 on their 2020 tax bill. At 4.3453 and the debt millage, the total millage in the budget draft is 0.024 mils less than the prior year's combined rate. And that's because each year as property values go up, debt millage goes down because you're only setting it to cover the level debt service, which so it's not a growing debt service, it's level since 2004. So I did include in here the maximum millage rate options, but just to clarify, you're not bound by those at this time. When you take your final vote, these are if it's up to 5.2 mils, 5.2032, you need a majority vote. If it's up to 5.7235, you need a 2/3 vote. And then with the unanimous vote, you can go up to statutory limits. So I just want you to know, you're not bound by that at this meeting. What you're setting is what goes out on the tax bill, along with the date and time of the public hearing in September, that first hearing. So I did bring the sheet, the cut sheet that everybody likes. I can put it up. If you want to take a look at it, I can run through a few of the sheets. And I did include the tax forms as an attachment, just it generates an operating millage of 4.3453, generates almost 14.7 million in total taxes. We anticipate collecting 95% of that. So that's 12.5 million to the general fund and about 1.5 million for the CRA. The debt millage generates about 810,000 at a 95% collection rate. So I'm going to see if I can share my screen and you can see some of those numbers. Let's see. That's kind of tough to read. Let me move that out and see if I can zoom out a little bit. I don't know if that's readable.
Can you all see that okay?
Can you see the
I can't,
village?
well, it's on the far left.
Let me see if I can. I'll
See
zoom
the
to it,
300.
but it seemed awfully large.
Hmm.
Okay, so hopefully that's better. So 0.1 mils generates 320,000. So 1/10 of a mil would generate 320,000. Half a mil generates 1.6 million, and 1 full mil generates the 3.2, which is then divided between the CRA and the general fund. But just wanted to show you this calculator. Hopefully we can. Okay.
Vance and Lindsay, this is a program that we all love.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I've watched it in the past.
yeah.
It's
So
pretty cool
here's where
tool.
here's where we stood at the budget draft, and we were 608,000 out, and we're still working on that, bringing that down to 0, or hopefully a transfer to fund balance. It includes in here all of the deletions that we talked about. We haven't added any additional ones. These are the ones that were in the budget draft, and you can change the millage rate. So what we've done in past years is say, okay, well, what if we want to add a 1/10 of a mil? What does 4.435 look like? And that brings the debt, brings the deficit down to 321,000. So you could play around with different numbers, or you can go with a 3.3453. One thing we did add on here is a millage rate, which would result in no transfer to or from fund balance, is 4.5353. So we'll calculate what that millage rate would be if you wanted to eliminate any of this deficit. If you want to add things back in, so right now, say you just, we have our next meeting, you decide you want to do entry signage. When we add it back in, as you can see, it adds it back into the budget and then tells you what that deficit is. So you can add and subtract stuff out as we go through the budget hearing. So right now, it just reflects what was in the draft.
And remember, for those of you, Vance and Lindsay, that haven't taken part in this before, we can set the trim rate as at whatever number we would like. We just cannot move above that.
Right. So when you set it in July and it goes out on the tax bills, you can take it down in September. You cannot take it up above whatever you send out on the tax bills without resending out all the tax notices, which is an expensive undertaking because we don't pay for that right now. And if we wanted to change it, we would pay for that. Right now they go out from the county, but if we make a change, that's us paying for that change. So, you could take it up. It'll just be an expensive undertaking. And I did talk to the property appraiser today, and they don't have any information as to whether those September dates will be extended. They did extend some of those dates during Irma, but we were still able to get our budget adopted in time. And so I don't see that being necessary for us. We should be able to make our normal dates unless a hurricane hits us.
Yeah. And we have, of course, lots of uncertainties about what some of our revenue estimates may or may not be.
Yeah, and those state numbers are coming out this week. We've got a number of them now. We're going to compare to what our estimates were.
Right. Good.
Sharon, do we have any, I'm looking at all the deletions that we've done, all the things that are frozen. Do we have any kind of priority on this that you said, listen, if we really needed one, this would probably be the one, or, any prioritization?
Right, so that's something I think you guys would want to discuss in terms
Yeah.
of, yeah, okay, if revenues are looking good, what would you add back in? And we can certainly help you make recommendations, but say, for example, you look at the sidewalks and you go, we really want to do Mohican, so on here, we would add money back in for Mohican. There's additions here to add it back in and then see what that does to the transfer to or fund balance.
Mm-hmm.
So you could, yeah, you can out for other things. Yeah, that's a discussion.
So it's important, it becomes important to allow ourselves plenty of flexibility tonight.
Right, and I can send this to you in PDF. I don't know if you want the whole Excel file, but one other thing I did want to, oh gosh, it looked so good when I did it earlier. Okay, and that may be small, but I did want to, we talked about this last year, but the average the taxable value is different than the market value or the sale price of a home. So I did take 5 people that you all know really well, put their taxable values and apply 1 mil and look at the average. So the taxable value average was 294. Property appraiser had it at 292, so it's not that far off from what they had. 1 mil, I said 300, it's 294, or $25 a month for 1 additional mil. But those are, taxable values. As we know, the longer you've lived in your home, the more trapped Save Our Homes value is in there. So
Aaron, let me, so if we kept it at 4.3453, that's an increase of revenue of what? I'm sorry, 6 to 8%, you said?
No.
So over the rollback rate, it's 2.65, but that nets out new construction. So the actual increase year to year for the city is 7%.
Okay, so we would be.
And that includes new construction.
So if we kept the current millage, we would bring in 7% more in ad valorem?
Yes.
Okay, so if we kept the current millage, what would those 5 homes, would they be seeing? What kind of a tax increase? So this includes new construction. So
it's an easy answer. It's 1.9% because that's what they increased your Save Our Homes by.
1.5%.
1.9.
So that's about 2%. Okay.
Yeah.
So that'd be, so if we kept the current millage rate, it would be basically a 2% tax increase for an average homeowner.
So on the operating millage, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And leave us $608,000 down.
Well, we can always sharpen our pencils on that, but.
Or not. Now, go ahead. Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, I would look for a motion. I can say this, I'm going to be much more interested in, and as we have in the past, prior to last year, going all the way to a 5.000 trim rate and allowing ourselves a maximum amount of flexibility.
You know what, and I kind of agree with you on that, Dale, because I mean, we don't know what the next 8 weeks will bring, so I think in these COVID times, so I think that might be a good idea also.
Well,
and then just bring it down.
I'm not going to vote to raise the millage rate in a major recession. So, and I don't even want to send out the message that we might. So.
I think you said that last year too, Mike, and it wasn't a major recession. But
last year wasn't a major recession, but.
So what about, and again, when we talked about this last year, I think one of the issues was we didn't have real kind of numbers on that. So the millage rate as it currently stands is say it again, Sharon. I mean, we're tossing out numbers, but
it's 4.3453. I don't know if you can see the screen, but
that's as it currently stands.
Yes.
That was a 2019 number, right? And our debt service is down somewhat. So the on the CRA bonds. So what we had done in prior years was to actually take the millage rate up to that 5.0000, and we found it very interesting, the level of feedback that we got from our citizenry, our taxpayers, in that regard. And it's always enlightening to see how little of that there actually was.
So Councilman Wild, did you get the answer? If I put in 5 mils here, so right now at 4.3453, it's $608,000 out, which again, we're working on, that's not the final number. If you put in 5 mils, it actually generates another 1.4 million and covers that deficit. And so then you could start adding a side. I mean, I think that's what you'd have to, is what is that $1.4 million gonna bring back? Is it bringing back the sidewalks that are on hold, or doing some of the parks that we've got there, or the GIS program? Yeah,
or gateway signage, or that sort of thing.
What does that look like for the real tax numbers that you had before?
So let's see, if we take 5 and we subtract 4.3453, it's an additional 0.6547 mils, which is $196 for that same value home, 300,000 taxable value.
An additional $196
a year. Yeah.
Okay.
$16 a month, I guess.
Well, for some people, that's a lot of money right now.
It's still $16 a month.
So I can do the total tax value at 5 mils, the total, their total tax bill to Maitland, not their total tax because there's school board, everything. But for Maitland, they'd be paying $1,500 operating millage and $76 for debt millage annually.
So, I mean, my view on this, that obviously we don't want to, everybody's having to make tough choices in this environment with what's happening. And so we shouldn't be immune to that. So, I mean, obviously, to the extent that there are things that we have to make tough choices on, we need to make tough choices. But the other side of that is that we also want to keep improving aging infrastructure and keep improving the safety issues that we have been addressing over the last few years. So it's hard to say we're going to break that momentum now. But I do think that we do have to start making those choices now. I mean, for tonight's purposes, I understand, Dale, the need to not be boxed into a lower number, but I also don't think that it sends the right message. And also from people who, for this matters, to the extent that, to Mike's comment, that to some people, these are real dollars, you don't want to send out a trim notice that causes them to think that this would be an issue for them. So, I mean, I think there's probably some, for at least this interim vote, that makes sense. And I don't know, Sharon, if we haven't really set, I mean, when you look at that list of what we would bring back, and I don't think this is the year to run a budget surplus. So, to the extent that there are things that we think that there are priorities that we want to try to make sure we can keep going on, well, then maybe we plan of what that looks like. But I don't know that I don't know that we've got that detail yet. I just don't know that we're there yet.
Well, and that was my thought about leaving as much flexibility as possible, because obviously over the years that we've done this multiple times in the past, we've always moved down off of that 5 number, but it gave us choices where we actually end up making those real choices instead of having those choices being made for us. Am I making any sense?
You are.
No, we wouldn't send out a trim notice until the final numbers that we came up with in September, right? I mean, if we just said five,
You'll be sending it out at 5 if you set it at 5 tonight. That you're voting on what is going to go on the tax bill mid-August.
It's not the actual number, but it is. It would be what
It'll
would be
say
going on a
proposed.
trim notice.
Yeah.
That would
If
be
you
mailed
say-
out.
It gives them
Mike-
3 numbers. It says, if the council does nothing
Right.
as proposed,
Right.
and roll back. I think those are the 3 numbers that end up on your tax bill for you to look at. Then gives the
I think
date and
that's right.
time of the public hearing, my email address, and my phone number.
So what exactly does the notice lay out? Does it lay out how much more money you will be paying a year in taxes?
Yes,
So
It actually would, yeah.
does it say what the increase will be?
yes.
So what would the increase be for me?
Well, when we looked at it over here, if it's at 5 mils, the
Right?
increase is going to be $196
What percent,
over,
what percent is that?
Do the math.
it should be down
I'm a
here.
liberal arts major.
What's the total
I can
tax
tell.
bill?
It's 18%.
An 18% tax
Then,
increase?
then rollback. They'll show it against rollback. They won't show it against, you know what I mean? That's, the truth in millage is gonna show the 5.000 compared to the
So
rollback rate.
what's it compared to what someone is paying this past year? Is it
13%.
13% tax increase in a recession?
Sharon, what number do we need to get to on the millage if we were to just get to a 0 for the
It's
fund balance?
It's 4.5353
Oh, okay,
and $12, a rounding.
okay.
Sharon, on those street lights at the very bottom, is that that Domrick area? Was that just the money to put in lights there?
We have funded the 11 lights that were outlined. So those are citywide street lights. We've determined we're not going to go based upon neighborhood request, but we're doing them selectively based upon safety need. So, the police looked at school bus stops and we got residents who went out and looked at areas that need to be lit. And then our staff went out with them to make sure that that's where, so these are more strategic streetlights. These do happen to be in Domrick
Right. I know
The
that
ones
one neighborhood.
in the current year. That
Yeah.
66 is street lighting needs.
What would that look like if we added that 66 back in?
Well, once we start talking about adding some things back in, we got a lot to talk about.
Right.
I'm not sure. This is time to itemize.
So the break even millage, if you want to call it that gets rid of the $608,000 is 4.5353, which is a 4% increase over the current millage or 7% over rollback. But there's one motion that's probably pretty easy that we could start with. We just need to move to set the rollback rate for 2020 tax year as 4.2333.
Yeah, I'll make that motion to
Thank you.
set that. Yeah.
Anybody want to second that motion? I certainly will.
Yeah, it's just math. It's just the rollback rate.
Yeah.
That's saying what we would have to pass in order to raise the same amount of revenue.
Yes. Yeah,
right.
it's just math.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the next one is more difficult. And the next motion, you need to set the proposed operating millage rate for the 2020 tax year. And I left that blank. So,
Do we need to do a roll call vote on the first one, Sharon?
oh, yeah, they're 3 separate motions. You're right.
Yeah, they are. Miss Maria, you want to call the roll on the rollback rate?
Sure, sir. Thank you. Councilman Wild,
Aye.
Councilman Guthrie,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hall Harrison,
Aye.
Councilman Thomas,
Aye.
Mayor McDonald,
Aye.
And we did not have anybody make comments on this item.
All right, very good. Thank you, Miss Maria. Let's skip to the third, the debt service rate that we need to do. I think we can certainly all agree on that.
Well, the problem is that that third one also includes the total millage. So you have to take them in the order in which
Okay.
they're,
All
yeah.
right. All right, very good. I was hoping we could actually separate that. All right. Again, I'm gonna, as I have in past years, I'm gonna support a rate that will allow us, room to absorb more information and have, again, leave ourselves with some choices. Or as, the vice mayor put it, not being boxed in.
I'll second it for conversation. So,
Well, I guess I can't actually make that. Can I make that motion, Cliff or Sharon?
Well, you can make any motion you want. It's not out of order for discussion. It's a different matter where it goes from here.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll do that. Discussion, questions, comments.
so have we ever has this been a practice for the last few years of setting it to 5 and then bringing it back down at the later date?
Yes.
Or just last year?
Yes, until last year, this had been the normal operating procedure of this council.
Right. Now, I understand that, but I also understand Councilman Thomas's concern about, if, this goes out, people are gonna be like, what are they doing at this time? It's kind of bad. So I
Well, that's what
understand
we
both-
hope we would
both
get
sides.
feedback on that.
Well, we could, on our city Facebook page, we can say the city council tentatively voted to increase your taxes up to 18%. See how that goes over.
Yeah, that would be a properly framed question, wouldn't it, Mike? How about, yeah, just a thought. I understand. Mike, your bias is very clear.
Well, we're all sitting here and we're all fairly financially secure. And there are a lot of people out there who aren't. And I know people who are really sweating this, and there are people who you never thought would be in distress. So, I'm not going to go and tell them, I'm going to probably be the only government in Orange County to raise our millage rate. So, and I'm not even going to say I'm going to think about doing it.
So that.
So what is your proposal? What would the rate then you would support then, Mike?
I would keep it right where it is.
And raise it.
4.3 at the 4.3453.
Correct. And then I would force us to meet that, just like every other business and every other household is doing to meet their budgets.
Okay. I don't agree, but I understand.
Lindsay, what's your thoughts?
I understand the unpopularity of raising taxes. I think that there's obviously a sensitivity there because we do need to be concerned with our residents and their ability to afford to pay their mortgages. I have a lot of friends who practice foreclosure law. I understand where the banks are at right now. I mean, I spend my days in the real estate world. I understand how this impacts housing prices, housing values, mortgages, all of that. I understand it. But on the other side, we have a tax base of homes in Maitland which have held their value very well. A lot of the homes, a small property tax increase to each individual, while it's small, I do understand that to the individual that can be a large impact. And that's something to concern themselves with. And it's something we have to obviously take into account. But our residents have waited a really long time for our city to get around to doing a lot of things that are on this list. And we have a really long list of things that our residents are expecting us to do. I think it's really, really frustrating for a lot of us who have been waiting years for a sidewalk to be told we have to wait even longer for a sidewalk because, you know, we're afraid of the unpopular opinion of raising taxes. You know, we just keep delaying doing the things we want to do. So if we're not going to raise taxes to do this, to do these projects, then we're going to have to find another way to do it. And I know I keep banging on the special assessments drum, but if we're not going to pay for it through property taxes, then we're going to have to pay for it through some other means. And special assessments are still property taxes, but at least they're attached to the home value of the individual properties. So do we want to be telling the neighbors, the residents in Domerick, that I'm sorry, we won't raise your taxes 17% to pay for your sidewalk, but we're then going to stick you each with an individual special assessment of $1,200 to pay for that sidewalk? I mean, I don't know. I think that the mayor's correct in trying to at least get the shock value out of the way. If we raise on the trim notice, people understand that that is an estimate. People understand that that's not the final word. I think that a vigorous debate over what our taxes should look like for the coming year with our residents is a really important thing, and I would encourage that vigorous debate. So if people open up their trim notices and freak out and say, absolutely not, well, then I want to hear from them. But if people open up their trim notices and go, okay, I can afford that, that's fair to get the stuff done that we need to get done, then I think that's also our residents telling us what they think. So, you know, I'd rather hear from people and have them yelling at me and saying, don't raise my taxes, than, you know, didn't Maria say we got no comment on this before this item this evening?
And in past years, Lindsay, the level of feedback that we've gotten, and Sharon can speak to this, and the number of emails I had received or phone calls that I had received in past years was very, very, very small.
So I think the thing is, everybody's right. I mean, it's a time for concern, and there's things we got to get done. I think, you know, I think you nailed it, Lindsay. I mean, there's still things that people are going to expect, you know.
We can't do, the most important thing we can do for our residents is increase their overall property value so that other people want to move to Maitland and buy their houses.
Amen.
And the way we do that is providing the essential services that our residents demand in order to be able to make their house, their neighborhood appealing to a future buyer. Streetlights, sidewalks, paving, those are all things that cost money, but those are all things that residents want. You know, you drive down a street, curb appeal involves actually having a nice street and a sidewalk. And so our residents in Domerick really enjoy their very, very high priced home values.
Which is directly related to the value of the land.
Correct. And how do we get there?
The location.
By providing essential services that make it a valuable and important place to live. And that goes for the rest of our Maitland residents, is they deserve to also have those amenities as well. So if we are only thinking about what is good for one set of neighbors, we're not worrying about the others.
Yeah.
You know, we have to look at which projects are going to be the most beneficial to all of the residents. And we can't look at anything if we don't have enough money to even make the projects that we promised we were going to do this year in the first place.
Well, I think Councilman Wild hit it last meeting. You know, he walks down the street and everybody's like, well, you know, when are we going to get this, this, and this? I mean, that's just part of conversation. I was looking on Facebook the other day and somebody was like, well, why don't we have undergrounding over here on the west side? So, you know, everybody wants, you know, and at these times still.
And it's a good thing to want. the idea is that, you know, we have to make the tough calls and give ourselves as many choices as we can. And that's my point. I appreciate what Lindsay's saying, because I think she's on the right track. Mike, you know, Vice Mayor Wild is on the right track as well. You know, that again, we had purposely done this in, I guess, the first, second, and third year of me being mayor, and the level of response was to that was shockingly low. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not important to some people, but we've got level of service expectations of the residents of this city and the businesses of this city that count on us doing the right thing when we have the opportunity to do that.
So everyone's good with putting this on the city Facebook page?
No, I'm not.
Why not?
Why would we? That's why we're paid the big bucks to make these calls
Well,
on a trim rate, Mike.
If you say people don't care, well, let's inform them and find out if they care or not.
Well, we're gonna make this call tonight.
Let's be honest. We're kind of sitting here in a Zoom meeting, you know, and let's put it out. You said people don't care. That means either they don't care because they don't know about it, or they know about it and they're good with it. So
Well, Mike,
we got said something tonight.
Facebook players, we're making a popularity contest.
No,
I think we're missing what he's trying to say. I think all he's trying to say here is that he wants us to own the decision. So he's essentially saying inform the residents. So here's my problem with just throwing numbers out. And I think this is my struggle last year, is that I understand the need to keep some flexibility as you go through the process. I also, though, don't like just throwing a number at this, which is why I think that the most I would go up to at this point is supporting a rate that covers the budget. Beyond that, I don't think I would go beyond that, because you start throwing numbers out and you don't even know what you're paying for or not paying for. So that's my struggle. And I get that you've got to kind of evaluate as you go. But I think, to Mike Thomas's point earlier, which is that people want to set their own financial budgets, so we should have to set ours too. So to me, this is one where I don't like it's, and I get the process, but I don't want to just start throwing millage rates out, because if they're totally arbitrary and we're going to run a surplus, that's not what I think we all intend to do here. So
like if we put it at 5, it still wouldn't cover all these deletions.
That's true.
Yeah, but Mike, but the problem, Vance, is that's not the budget. That's the problem, is that we've already set a budget,
right?
And so we would be putting, we would then have to, we're then putting things back in the budget or spending money that has already kind of come out. So I mean, I just don't, I'm not a big fan of just putting a number out that's, I mean, why 5%? You know, it's just, these are numbers that are not, they're not based in kind of things that have been set in the budget. So for me, the number is to carry the budget as currently drafted, and then we decide whether or not we want to cut more out of that budget or run a deficit, or maybe, like Sharon said, that we would be able to find things to get the budget down to a net zero by adjusting other things. So I just don't like being arbitrary about it, because I just don't think it's the right thing to do from a.
So we're just, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to throw a number out, and then, you know, we're about to, I guess I just got the notice about meeting about the library site analysis. And so are we going to go to the voters and ask them for a special assessment to build a library? Are we going to be in a better or worse position depending on what decision we make on our millage rate? Looking down the road, if you say, well, we're going to increase millage rates 13, 18%, then we're going to come back and ask you for another $500,000 for a library. And so, you know, all that starts adding up. So, you know, I guess it's a matter of prioritizing. I think it would be a tough sell to do that with the library. I would very much like to see a new library there on the Quinstrong Park property. And if we could do that, you know, and sell it to residents on whatever that would be. I don't know what millage rate it would take to get that done. But you know, that's when you look at the macro picture, you know, and, you know, 2-3 years, or actually we could go to ballot next year on the library if you know, we so desired. So those
If we had a plan, which we don't have right now.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have any thoughts? At 4.5353, we're saying that we are not going to run a deficit, but we're also going to cut out $2.6 million of items.
I think, Dale, though, I hear, and I know where you're going, Dale, and I know where I think the issue though is that there are going to be periods of time. And I want to look, you've heard me say for the last, I think that the sidewalks and the safety things that we are doing are really important. And so I'd like to see some of those continue. So if we could start, as someone said, sharpen the pencils. I mean, I'd like to see that we keep going on some of these safety item things and, you know, relook at other things. But again, we're at this point just throwing numbers out. So, I mean, I'd like to not just throw an arbitrary five number out. I'd like for the number to be based on.
But that's kind of why I was saying, you know, maybe we need to go through this list and say, these are kind of important, you know, I mean, you know, the lights in Domrick, I know that area is, you know, black as night and it's dangerous to your point. And the same as maybe there's some sidewalks and, you know, and we need to find out what things we need to do, you know. I don't think having a, you know, you know, OMB analysis frozen is a big deal, but, you know, or have somebody up in Tallahassee. So
the clarity on the lights,
sidewalks are.
the clarity on the lights, Sharon, just one more time. The lights that were identified at traffic, I mean, at bus stops and at certain intersections, those are still going forward. That those were in this year's budget, or is that?
Yes. So
okay. So the ones that were kind of identified citywide, or, you know, with a group that said those are still going to go forward. This street light, so by taking out the street lights, you're just taking out future ones that we haven't yet identified as being needed, but we're kind of budgeting this. We're putting this bucket aside for those lights that may be needed. Is that correct?
Right. And just for clarification, the reason there'll still be street lights in 22, 23, 20. This is just a 21 decision. I didn't take them out across the board in future years,
right?
Because Duke is running behind. They're not at full staff. They're not as responsive as they've been. So these lights, although we have the design for them, haven't been installed yet. So they got to order them and install them. And we're just discussing it tonight. At this point, it looks like it could be, because then they head into hurricane season and they switch their gears, you know, the other way. We might not see them until November, December. So it's not as if we're taking it's not as if they're on standby to do more street lights. You know, we're just trying to get the 11 done that we, you know, prioritize from the residents. It didn't take up all of the 66. It didn't take up the entire budget in 20. So there's a little money to carry forward if we found another light. But we decided not to go with the neighborhood by neighborhood lighting, but just deal with selective lighting. And there's a group that points out where, you know, the lighting looks like it needs to be installed, and we move forward from it. So it's nothing's going to come to a screeching halt. We will actually get lighting in 21 while we can be planning for 22, because Duke is not, you know, they've had this for months. I mean, a lot of the folks that we're dealing with are working remotely. They're just not prioritizing street lighting projects.
And so, of course, I'm a big fan of, of gateway signage that we've been working on for many years as well. So there are a variety of topics here that are worthy of discussion. So again, without even the, and Mike, if I understand correctly, the 4.5353 just gets us to $12. And
Yeah, it's rounding, but again, we're still going through our budgets, trying to eliminate that 608,000, which then it would free it up to say, okay, well, that's enough to do Mohican and you know, $100,000 worth of gateway signage.
You know, gateway signage is it's a nice little perk, you know, saying it's necessary when we have 20% unemployment.
it's always necessary. And one of our primary priorities in our earlier budget discussion that you missed, Mike, was the branding of the community. That's something that's very easy for us to do.
I don't put welcome to Maitland as a priority. I put sidewalks, things like that. But anyway, let's move on.
I disagree.
So if we moved, so we know if we do a millage rate of 5, that's 18% increase, correct? If we did 4.75, that would be about what? 9%, 10%. And then, I mean, we could set it
almost 9%. Yeah.
And then that's, I don't think that's going to shock anybody too much.
And why won't
and we can bring it back down in September if we need be.
And God forbid we have a bad hurricane season.
Karen, just
Mike Wild, how would you feel about 4.75?
I think throwing numbers in the air is problematic for me, but that's just
right. But we just tightened it up in September. I mean, to the point is, you know, come 3 weeks from now or 2 weeks from now, to Dale's point, we get a hurricane.
Right.
So, I mean, how are we going to pay for that right now?
Well, we have what's our
fund balance?
Emergency fund?
Yeah.
3.75 million.
What the last storm cost us, Sharon?
About 2 for Irma.
Okay. So we're covered there then.
Karen, on our final numbers, I know that this is an evolving situation of how much money we're losing. What are you seeing, or what are you trending before, so that when we are sitting in budget in September, how much more of a hole are we going to have to dig ourselves out of? Or do you think that 4.5353 actually will keep us level?
I think that we're not, the numbers that came out from the state are not as, in totality, not as aggressive as we were with taking things down. So their numbers look a little better than ours. Part of that could be population changes in Maitland. So we're getting a little bigger pot of the money. But I don't think there's any, ad valorem will not change. You know, it's from December of 2019. Interest rates couldn't possibly get any lower unless they start charging us to have money in the bank. So there aren't a lot of unknowns from that perspective, but like just say Friday, we made the call to cancel the fall events. So that money will return. That's part of the 608 that will, you know, 45,000 will come back from that, because it's unlikely we'll be doing any of those events. So those are kind of where they're, you know, as I said, we had the senior center in there. I'm not sure that the senior center is going to be opening on October 1st. So we won't be going the other way. It's what's in there are conservative revenues, and then it's expenditures we left not knowing that as we get closer, we'll take those expenditures out and say, we won't be running these programs, or we don't think they're going to happen. The state hasn't the numbers have looked better than what we anticipated. There's no telling who's right, but their economists certainly have more information than we do here about the state as a whole. And so there's not going to be a revenue drop. We're going to keep working on expenditures, things that won't happen, positions that come open between now and September. So we'll be working that 608 down. And then at our next workshop in August, we can talk about, all right, so now we're down, say we can eliminate that 608. Is there anything you want to add back? Sidewalks would be the one I would guess would be the continue on the next sidewalk, which is not 2.8. It's just a piece of this 1.2 right here. A piece of because some of them are, it's more than one sidewalk that's on hold. And we can go through them. So say, for example, sidewalk milling. It doesn't mean we're not going to do any milling. They had wanted to take milling up from 130 to 300,000. And instead of doing it all in 1 year, we just gradually increase the sidewalk milling over 5 years and said, okay, we'll add 100, we'll add 50 this year, we'll add 75, 100. So we try to be thoughtful about the fact that the economy should come back. So it's not like you won't see any sidewalk milling. We'll be having trip hazards all over the city. That's not what any of these cuts are.
Now we're reasonably expecting organically to get back to 2019 numbers in what, 2 or 3 years? 3 years, maybe?
2 to 3 years, depending on the revenue line.
Yep. So if we, as best we can, to try to forecast that kind of expectation is part of what I'm wanting to leave us with, as many choices as we can have until such time that we actually need to specify a millage rate. And I must admit, 5 comes as Vice Mayor Wild pointed out, is a number pulled out of the air. It was a shockingly high number because we hadn't been at a 5 mil rate before. So that's literally where the number came from. So you're right, that number is pulled completely out of the air, but it had left us for those 3 years with choices that, and we always move back down. Not, of course, to a rollback rate, but so we've been very fortunate to have those choices. It triggers and motivates that great debate that Lindsay would like to have. We would all like to be able to have. Without that, somebody just absorbs it and doesn't even think about it. And that's what I know my own personal experience had been.
I realize that 4.75 is just as arbitrary as 5 or just as arbitrary as any other number. But I think that it gets us halfway between 4.5353, which is the number we know we need to get to in order to kind of get ourselves level. And 5, which is, the mayor trying to get himself some additional fan club recipients, members.
Looking for likes.
But I come back to the fact that, we want a city that is actually going to go follow through with the promises that we have made to our residents. And we promised that we would get stuff done. And I don't know how we get stuff done unless we actually pay for it. And this isn't a trip to Bloomingdale. So it's not, to Mike's point, which is I hear your point, Mr. Thomas, that you are saying we need to be sensitive to our residents. I totally agree. But our residents ask us to do stuff. If they wanted us to just continue to be, conservative with our money and not spend it, well, they wouldn't be coming to council asking us for parks and asking us for sidewalks and asking us for, the things they want. They understand that these have to get paid for somehow.
Well,
How do we work?
I can see that the tide, which way the tide's flowing here, so I'm not going to belabor
Yeah.
the point, but I mean, when times are good and you have money, you spend it and you do these things. If we don't do some of these projects next year, you know, when the economy rebounds, we'll do them then. It's just like any household manages its money. You don't buy a new car this year, you wanted to. You buy in 2 or 3 years when your job comes back. So the fact that we're not doing something next year doesn't mean it's not getting done. It means it will get done, you know, when we have the money to do it. Again, I've seen too many people in my neighborhood who are legitimately suffering and very, very worried. And so again, Sharon, do you know any other government in Central Florida that's raising its millage rate?
We won't know. Everybody has their tax rates they'll be turning in by Friday, so I don't really.
Anyway, you know,
Would you support
I'm gonna
going?
vote against it, but we'll, you know, let's just go ahead and move on. We're just kind of going.
All right, then I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to move to set the proposed operating millage rate for the 2020 tax year as 4.75.
I will second.
This is a roll call vote, Ms. Maria. We have a motion and a second. We have any
Yes.
further comment? Any further comment, anybody?
I want to make one further comment because I can see that Vice Mayor Wild is annoyed, is shaking his head. He is frustrated. I understand, but we are inviting and demanding public comment. If people don't like this, I want them to come and tell us.
And let's put it on Facebook.
I fully agree. Put it on Facebook. I put a link on my own Facebook page broadcasting this meeting tonight. I want public comment.
Good.
If people don't like this, then tell us.
We can change it in September.
And we'll change it.
Yeah, no, I don't. My struggle is I hear what you're saying. I mean, I don't know the reality of getting a lot of that public comment that you want. Obviously, I think it would be great, but the other problem is that we won't really know, or we don't really know the numbers, right? So
No, yeah.
we're just, you know, we're setting. So that's my struggle. My struggle is I think we had a number that we knew we would have to cover our budget as drafted, you know, as staff had already kind of taken a look at what we could cut. But look, as Mike said, I don't want to belabor the point. I mean, I think I just don't feel comfortable with just picking a number. That's where I've always been on this. But
Sharon, if we were to set it 4.5353, from what you were saying and from the numbers that you've put out here, because I mean, I suck with numbers, unfortunately. This is the reality. My father's an accountant. I definitely did not go that way. Is there any foreseeable, I just don't want to get to our budget workshops in September and find out that if we had gone to 4.55, that, hey, we would be able to cover everything, but we had additional unanticipated shortfalls, and now we are at a number that we can't go up to cover that extra little bit. Is there, because I'm Mike, I'm right there with you. I get it. I don't want to throw a number out, but I also think that having a bit of a cushion so that if something comes up, that we can guard against it, that we're insuring ourselves.
Spoken like a future mayor.
So at 4.5353, I still feel confident we can find the $608,000 and that you'd be able to bring it down and or add one of these back in if you wanted to keep it at 4.5353. So I feel confident we can find the $600,000 we're out right now and bring it to zero, which would mean you could set it back down to 4.3453, or just debate whether you want to add some of the stuff that was cut back in, like a sidewalk or something, and set it at that number. You can refine that number to a real number. I mean, this number is a real number in terms of the fact that it eliminates dipping into fund balance for anything.
And so again, that 5353 guarantees that 2.8 million of projects go away for this year.
I'm not sure that's what Sharon said.
Yeah, no, that isn't what I'm saying. I'm saying I still think that we as a staff are going to work through then find that other 608,000, which you could either then take it down to the 4.3453 in September, or you can look at adding in some amount of projects that you feel comfortable and then set that millage rate at exactly that amount.
Look, and look, I think this is a difficult one because I think both arguments are valid. And I just feel like being asked to do what we, as city council, for me, I'm comfortable with that saying staff has taken a look at the budget. We've made cuts. We're going to still look at and see if we can make any more cuts, but the number to balance the budget is X. And that's where I'm comfortable with today. But I don't disagree with the sense that people want to see some of these projects move forward. Now, there is sentiment out there too that says, hey, look, why haven't these projects been done a long time ago? And we can say, well, we didn't set the budget high enough in a certain year. I mean, there are issues and reasons why projects haven't gotten done over the years. And then as far as the undergrounding goes, I mean, we all know that is a super complicated issue that is going to cost a lot of money twice, potentially. So, I mean, I think these are all complicated, and to me, that our job is to try to set it as a practical number, knowing the knowledge what we have. And to me, the knowledge we have is this is what it's going to take to balance the budget, and we're going to keep working at it. But as of right now, this is the number. So that's my opinion. But
I'm going to co-sign with that one. You have managed to make a convincing argument, Counselor. So I think Sharon's also making a good point. If we can get there and staff can continue to hack away
At level of service.
But
No,
some
so-
of it will be
Go ahead.
dictated by the fact we won't have events in the fall. Like that's money that's in the budget that was hopeful because we didn't want to take away those first Friday events, but it's just not going to happen.
And these are not, by the way, I mean, the park issue, I mean, yes, the argument has been made that you could take money out of general fund to pay for parks, but typically those parks are paid out of the parks trust fund,
Right.
correct? And this is doing nothing with that amount. So we're not taking the money away from a park project by doing
No,
this or
you
that.
still have Independence Square underway, Fort Maitland behind it at some version. We don't know what that is. And then 3 potentials with whatever's left over from Fort Maitland at its different level of improvement, which is not the number that we originally thought it was going to be. It's going to be something less.
And I get Dale's point on this, which is that why box us in, and let's not close the door on projects, because clearly we've made progress over the last 5 years of doing capital improvements, and there's still a long list to go. But there is also a point to be made, Dale, that is a year where everybody is having to tighten the budget, the year that you make a whole bunch of investment in capital projects. And we also are still going forward on utility projects because those are paid out of a different bucket anyway. So, I mean, I think there are a lot of projects that are still going to go forward. I mean, the utility projects, from my understanding, are paid from a fund or a bond revolving fund that we've already done, right, Sharon?
Yes.
Correct, yeah. Mhm.
So, I mean, I think we're going to,
And we'll be paying $289,000 back to the Parks Trust Fund that had been advanced for CRA debt service in the past.
yeah. So, I mean, I think that we're being creative here. And I think one of the things that when people ask me, hey, how's the city's budget? I said, we're a conservative, but I still think there's going to be projects that you're going to see being made in the city during this period. And I think people are encouraged by that. So, I mean, I think being fiscally conservative gives us those abilities in the future, and so that things aren't as dramatic when there's things like this that happen. And I think being fiscally conservative helps with that. And I think that comes with being realistic on what you set your funds to be. So that's just my That's probably more than 2 cents at this point that I
Yeah,
feel, but-
and well, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Miss Maria, you want to call the roll?
Okay, this is, okay, go ahead, Sharon, I'm sorry.
No, if you're going to clarify, that's fine.
I was gonna clarify, this is the 4.7500?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Councilwoman Hall Harrison,
Don't you love being called on first, Lindsay?
Yeah.
Yay.
was that a yay or nay?
That was a nay.
Okay, Councilman Thomas,
Nay.
Councilman Wild,
Nay.
Councilman Guthrie,
Aye.
Mayor McDonald.
Aye. Okay, motion fails to pass. All right, looking for another one.
I will set a motion for 4.5353.
I'll second that.
All right, any further comments? I will not support that. Miss Maria, if you want to call the roll?
Thank you. Councilman Thomas,
No. Well, I want to move this on, so I'll vote aye.
Councilman Wild,
That was a resounding aye, and I'll give an aye.
Councilman Guthrie,
No.
Councilman Lindsay Hall Harrison, sorry.
Aye.
Mayor McDonald.
It doesn't matter. Nay. Okay, the motion passes. The new trim rate will be 4.5353. And we will not consider ourselves to be boxed in. All
Okay,
right.
and let me read the third motion, and somebody can make that motion if they want. Move to set the proposed voted debt millage rate for the 2020 tax year as 0.2530 for a combined total of 4.7883 mils, and set the date, time, and place for the public hearing on the tentative budget for fiscal 2021 as Monday, September 14th, 2020, 6:30 PM in the City Hall Council Chambers.
All right, that motion needs to be made, guys.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, Miss Maria?
Thank you. Councilman Wild,
Aye.
Councilman Guthrie,
Nay.
Councilman Hall Harrison,
Aye.
Councilman Thomas,
Aye.
Mayor McDonald.
Nay. Okay, now, we've done that. Okay. City managers' reports or council people's reports. Feel free to jump right in.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I think you mentioned it earlier, we're looking to do a workshop, lunchtime workshop on the library site selection. So hopefully I will have that document to get out to you in advance this week. And they're looking at the first Friday in August around noontime. And I think Maria's reaching out or will be reaching out to folks. And Mayor, we're okay to do that remotely?
Yes.
Okay.
And
It'd be
go
August
ahead.
7th, right?
The 7th, yes.
Yeah, I believe, Mike, you've already lobbied your position here. Any other comments?
That Mike, read that a me, Mike, or Mike, the other Mike?
Oh, the one that's lobbied his library position.
Dale just can't help himself.
Can I?
No, he
can I-
can't.
Hey, can I ask a question on the library thing? So and I apologize, I kept getting booted off the Zoom live. So if this was said, I logged back in each time, but if I missed it. So the library budget, from my understanding, did not take into account using any of the reserve. They're asking for the same amount of money without taking into consideration utilizing any of the reserve that they've been carrying. Is that correct?
Right, so what they're offsetting it with is COVID savings, so savings from this budget, and
Right.
saving from 19 from money we set to them. So it's not
So-
that other pot of money.
Yeah, so knowing that, this is going, the site selection and things like that, and that's going to get complicated because now we're talking about more money that's going to be needed, and having to go out on a bond or do something for a library. The issue with current operation and maintenance, we don't have to discuss this tonight, but I know we've talked extensively about that building needs help and needs work, and things that might cost money, things that we can't potentially put off for a year or two, that would, regardless of how long this is, the site selection we're talking about might take. We're talking that this would be more than a year or two off, I would think. My thought was to have, for at some point as a discussion, things that are must sort of in the next 2 years, looking at those capital improvements that might need to be made that can't be avoided anymore, and looking about how would that play into the library budget, and how would that affect the surplus cushion that they currently have. So that's just my kind of, instead of
Initial
instead of
facilities
go ahead.
assessment. We have the initial facilities assessment that spelled out near term, midterm, and long term. Public Works has been working on the near term, so we can come up with a checklist of that and see what's done and what's still outstanding. Then there was sort of the midterm stuff, and that's where you go, do we need to do it, or will they be in a new building? If they're not going to be in a new building, then we've got to do that sort of midterm stuff, which would be more like new windows, get rid of the old windows, a little more expensive. We've already
Right.
done the roof. So a lot of the roof, somebody drove through the doors, so they got replaced. So we've been doing those. And
Right.
they've been much more proactive about it and working with Stacy. So I think we can at least get you that list of where we are. Cause yeah, that is an issue, especially if we're not going to pursue a new library this year. I want to make sure that they have what they need in terms of facilities, but the fire marshal did inspect the facilities. So
Understood. And
Yeah.
so my thought on this is that I think the library is great, and I think it provides a great service. So I want to do what we can to support the library, but I want to make sure that in these times where we're making cuts, if to the extent that there are needed repairs to that building, and it would come out of your general city budget, that maybe those would get covered by that cushion fund that they have. Now is the time to kind of be deploying that. So I
Completely agree with that, Mike.
I think if there are going to be some, especially with regard to capital improvements that might need to be made, that we would like to see, maybe those funds at play. Because I just think that this is a weird time as we're deciding what to do with that building, and where would be a good time, where would be a good place, and when would be a good time to build another facility. So I think that with regard to capital improvements to the library, maybe this is the time to look at the use of some of those funds. But that's just my thought on that, because I do want to make sure that that's a good place and a safe place, because people love it, and there's some great services there, and I want to make sure that that building at least stays in a condition that we can still be occupying it and using it for those purposes. So that's my.
okay,
Or at
we can-
least the services can continue to be provided.
we'll
Yeah.
get with Public Works and see what they have on there that they think needs to be addressed still in the near term, in the midterm.
How much
Yeah.
in the near term is life safety issues?
It was more like system issues, like old equipment, changing out the AC units for the new AC units, some parking improvements in the parking lot. So they weren't, some of them were kind of mini ADA about like, hey, this door needs to be replaced out because it doesn't meet ADA. So all of those they did, those were prioritized. If they had anything to do with fire code or anything like that, then they were prioritized immediately. So we don't have any of those outstanding safety checklist issues. The ones that are now is new carpeting, new lighting, that kind of stuff.
Well, that kind of stuff, to reiterate what Mike said, I think that's a perfect use for that surplus fund they've been sitting on for 30 years. So I would agree with that. And also in looking forward, and maybe we'll have a better idea after our workshop if we're gonna move ahead and perhaps go to a referendum as early as next year. You know, things like carpeting and AC and that stuff. You know, I just assume, well, whatever's necessary to keep people coming in and out of the building, and outside of that, I would bare bones it, and hopefully we can convince our residents that you know, a new library would be in their interest.
I'd love to get feedback on that. We talk about things that we could put out there. I mean, when people find out, I've had actually several calls, not several, well, more than one, about the library, and some people love the current building. So it's going to, I think it'd be an interesting one to get feedback on as far as what people like and what the services they use at the library. I think we had talked about that. And
yeah,
as we were going through it. So
good discussion.
All right. Anybody else have anything you'd like to mention or speak of tonight? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. We will meet again on the Friday the 7th, I understand. And we will look forward to the insights of Larry Adams on a site analysis. I'm sure that will be a lively chat. All right.
The next meeting is going to continue to be virtual.
Maybe.
Just to mention, Maria, hopefully it's on their calendar, it's on mine. Monday night, we do have another budget workshop to talk about stormwater, water, wastewater, solid waste, and then we can go over the list of projects, and maybe if we want to prioritize them as things can get added back in, you can all put them in the order in which you think they could be added back in. And don't underestimate the need of an OMB analyst when I got to put the budget together.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we miss Nick.
Yeah.
Okay, any other thoughts?
Briefly, Mayor, if I can weigh in for just 1 second.
Yes, go ahead.
I assume all of you all have filed your financial disclosure reports, which would also have required you to answer the question about whether you've done your ethics training. But if by any chance you haven't done your ethics training, make sure you get it in ASAP.
That's watching your video, right?
Well, of course. I mean, what else would you do?
Right.
Do you get a little cut of that every time we watch it?
God, don't I wish. That would be lovely.
It's more animated than his still shots picture that I'm getting right now. But
well, I wanted to spare you this evening.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, guys? I appreciate it. We'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.